Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at Scorpio through the houses. So this video is for you if you have Scorpio occupying a particular house, so it's going to be everybody. If you're looking at the tropical Placidus system and you're not able to find Scorpio occupying a house, it is probably intercepted. So I do have a video on interceptions. I will add it in the description box below to see what house Scorpio technically would belong to if it did have a house. When you do have an interception taking place in your natal chart, this energy is swallowed up. It is sandwiched usually between two other houses. So usually what this signifies is the energy wasn't expressed when you were growing up. Maybe there wasn't space for it to be expressed. Maybe the parents were just completely different than you when you were growing up. So you have to work a little harder to bring this energy to the surface. Now also with interceptions, because it is hidden in the chart, so Scorpio already is hidden, but with the interception, it's going to be even more hidden. So it's like the energy might come out at strange times. You might not be aware that you have this energy, especially if we're operating out of the unconscious. Usually what tends to take place with unconscious behaviors and shadow behaviors is that they tend to kind of go into the driver's seat versus us being in the driver's seat. So we always want to become aware of these unconscious traits that we may have so we can bring them to the surface and not be operating out of those lower energies. Now, with Scorpio overall as an energy, wherever you guys have it in your natal chart, whatever house, it's going to be the area of life where you might be hidden. The area could be hidden for you. There could be shadow traits taking place here. It could be the area where you're seeking power and control. It could be the area that you guys bring to the surface. You guys could be super passionate about this area. You guys could be super obsessive about this area, maybe even possessive about this area. Because Scorpio as an energy, I mean, it's on a huge range. We have the shadow energies of Scorpio when it goes into the dark aspects of Scorpio, and then it kind of goes through all of these different phases. Sometimes we say 3 animals, some people say 7. I just say 3 to keep it easy and simple. It goes through these progressions: death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, until it comes into that phoenix rising state, and you have now alchemized all of these energies. So wherever you guys have Scorpio in your natal chart, you are transmuting that energy as well. There could be shadows, you could have dark maybe experiences that take place in that particular house that you yourself are transmuting through and bringing to the surface. And at the end of the day, all we can really have is awareness. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with Scorpio in the first house. So if you have Scorpio in the first house, you are most likely a Scorpio rising. Scorpio is occupying your first house with this particular energy. I mean, when I did the Scorpio rising video, definitely check that out. I'll put that in the description box below as well. With Scorpio rising, the energy is always expect the unexpected. You think you know this person, they're going to destruct it and change it and build it into something new again. So for you guys, it's in that first house. It's going to be all about the self. It's going to be all about your personality, who you guys truly are. It's also going to be maybe your physical appearance as well. You guys go through a lot of changes and transformations when it comes to this particular area. Maybe people that you guys knew 5 years ago, you know, you were probably a completely different person back then compared to you now. So a lot of death, rebirth energy in the house of the self. Eventually with Scorpionic energy, it does neutralize. Okay, I do find that it goes through these intense like death, rebirth, kind of like a pendulum swinging, and then eventually comes into that neutral state, which is that phoenix rising state. So for you guys, it's going to be all about the self. You guys probably work on yourselves a lot. You guys definitely have the eyes going on. I'm sure you guys have heard about the Scorpionic eyes and the gaze. So you guys are always pulling people towards you. Your whole personality is going to be Scorpio. You exude this energy. So it's going to be super magnetic, super sexual, super attractive. People might just always want to be around you guys. People might kind of feel like you guys just know things. You guys just exude that energy, that confidence. Okay, Scorpio does have that underlying confidence. A lot of the time it is because they're in tune with that intuition. Now obviously depends on the rest of your access in terms of your midheaven and your IC, whether it's intercepted or not. But a lot of the time, Scorpio risings are going to have the descendant in Taurus. They're going to have the midheaven in Leo, and they're going to have the 4th house in Aquarius. So if you guys are on this particular axis and you guys don't have an interception taking place in your natal chart, you will see a lot of Scorpio risings with this particular configuration. They're going to be interested in acting, modeling, because they're able to portray on a screen. It's that first house, and they have the eyes, especially when it comes to modeling and the eyes. And like these days, when we look at modeling and especially the whole entertainment industry, it is all about that seduction and that look. And you guys have that look. Regardless of your personality, you're able to portray it on a camera. And that's what makes Scorpio risings very attractive in this particular field. especially if you guys have that midheaven taking place in Leo. You guys are going to want to express yourselves creatively in this way. And then what's fueling that is the 4th house in Aquarius, which is usually a very unconventional type of upbringing, and also gives you guys a little bit of that detached energy as well when you do have that 4th house in Aquarius. I know that's not going to apply to everybody. It's just people on this particular axis. Sometimes people have an interception, so your midheaven and your IC is going to be a little bit different. But regardless, even if your midheaven and your IC is different, you guys are still going to have this magnetic, attractive vibe to you, and you guys are still going to be able to portray on a camera this look because it's that first house. Now, what's fueling it in terms of the 10th house and the 4th house might be a little bit different if you do have an interception. So overall, this is the vibe with having Scorpio in the first house. Like I mentioned, definitely check out my Scorpio rising video. There's going to be way more information in there for my Scorpio risings. If you have Scorpio in the second house, very interesting placement to have because the second house is our values and it's also our money area, how we make money, and a lot of the time it's connected to self-worth as well. So that's what the second house occupies. So a lot of the time, making money and the ability to make money and how much money you make is going to be connected to your self-worth. So when you guys have Scorpio in the second house, a few ways that you guys can make money, and I actually have a video on this as well, so you guys can check that out. I will put it in the description box below, some ways that you guys can make money. So for you guys, Scorpio in the second house, ways you guys can make money is going to be through anything to do with sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult. So you will see a lot of people who have Scorpio in the second house. First of all, your financial status and your ways to make money, and maybe even what you guys do to make money, can go through a lot of changes and transformations. Once again, because it is connected to that self-worth. So your self-worth can go through a lot of changes and transformations. And it's interesting because this energy can very much operate behind the scenes. So wherever we have Scorpio in our natal chart, it's also the area of life where you guys are operating behind the scenes. So Scorpio in the second house people are always trying to kind of manipulate the energy to make money. Now, what I will say for this particular placement is definitely watch out for things like pyramid schemes, get rich quick schemes. Scorpio can quickly go into the shadow aspects of society. So all the shadow lower versions of society when it comes to making money, things like gambling, kind of investing without paying attention to investing when you have this particular energy, things that are super, super high risk where you think you're going to get a quick return, playing lottery all the time. And I'm not going to go into the more intense versions of the shadow aspects of society of how people can make money, but you guys are going to be drawn to this because Scorpio is always trying to cut corners in a way. And unfortunately with Scorpionic energy, because of the fact that they're trying to cut corners and they're trying to manipulate energy, well, sometimes the quote unquote energetic karma of this earth plane can catch up to them. And in that case, it's like you wasted more time trying to get to that end goal by trying to like cut the corner, manipulate the energy. And it's just the nature of this earth plane. It's just the way that it is, at least for now, because this earth plane is very Saturnian. So we kind of have to look at the earth plane and play within the game and the cards that are dealt down here on this earth plane. So when you have Scorpio in the second house, ways that you guys can make money could be anything to do with the occult. It could be astrology, it could be therapy, it could be psychology, it could be things like being a sex therapist, maybe a mortician. Obviously depends on the rest of the natal chart to see how this energy could manifest. It could also be being an accountant, financial advisor, investments, investing your money. What I will say is when you have Scorpio in the second house, definitely learn all about money, how money works. And if you guys are going to be investing, learn about investments. Let's say you guys are doing stocks or whatever it is, make sure you guys actually learn to see how you guys can actually benefit from these types of things, because I do find a lot of the metaphysical energies in a natal chart, Scorpio being one of them, this energy kind of gets frustrated and impatient because it's like in the higher vibrational planes and in the metaphysical planes, things happen faster and they kind of happen without us even thinking about it. Down here on the earth plane, we are restricted, unfortunately, by time and just overall like Saturnian energy, like putting in hard work into things, working toward things. So because there are these certain energetic restrictions on this earth plane, certain things might take longer. But what I will say is like with the Scorpionic energy, wherever you guys have it in your natal chart, it's like when you guys are working toward that thing, there's no way for it not to manifest. Do you know what I mean? It's just like it might take a little bit longer than you guys expect. Once you guys go into that fast money route, with the fast money route, like I said, because the plane is Saturnian, the energy can catch up with you because Scorpio energetically can sometimes also deal with karma. That's a whole conversation of its own, but that's the overall idea here. So you guys have Scorpio in the second house. You guys might go through huge transformations when it comes to your money. So you might have a lot, then you might have nothing, then you might have a lot. You guys can kind of go through these intense transformations. Now, what I will say is like the energy does neutralize eventually. Okay, it does come into like that center of that pendulum swinging. And what I will say for this particular energy as well is like because Scorpio is passionate, and what Scorpio does is like they put their full being into whatever they're doing. For you guys, it's in the second house. When you guys fully invest yourselves into making money, learning about money, getting those gains, getting that wealth, you guys will bring it through. The only thing here is it just might take a little bit of time. Patience will be key when you guys do have this particular placement. Now, what I also will say is the second house does deal with personal values as well. So having Scorpio in the second house, you guys might be a little bit more hidden when it comes to your personal values and your belief systems. You guys might not necessarily share it with everybody. You guys could also maybe be manipulative in this area. Keep this in mind with that second house energy. So with that being said, there could be maybe certain shadow traits, subconscious or unconscious traits that you guys may have when it comes to money and finances and personal finances that could actually be in the way of getting those gains that you guys do seek. So these are a few things that can take place when you do have Scorpio in the second house. If you have Scorpio in the third house, this is going to give you an undertone energy of having a Scorpio Mercury. So this is going to be the way that you guys think. You guys think in a very Scorpionic type of way. Definitely check out my Mercury and Scorpio video for more information. I will add that in the description box below as well, because in this video, it is going to be very brief. There's just so much to say when it comes to Scorpionic energy. I could talk for days. That's why I do have a playlist for Scorpio / 8th house energy. But when you guys do have Scorpio in that third house, you guys think like a Scorpio, okay? So obviously it depends what's actually happening with your Mercury. This is going to add an undertone energy. It doesn't mean your Mercury is now in Scorpio. It just adds an undertone energy added on top of whatever Mercury you guys already have. Having Mercury in Scorpio can be a blessing and a curse. I mean, with the Scorpionic energy anywhere in a natal chart, it really depends which version of the energy you go into, how unhealed is the energy, is it in the lower versions of the energy, or is it in that divine version? And usually to get to the divine version, you have to go through the shadows. So for you guys, when you guys do have Scorpio in the third house, you think like a Scorpio person. So you're out here playing chess all the time. You're always 10 steps ahead. You guys could be channels. You guys could be mediums when you have Scorpio in the third house. You guys could very much be ahead of the game always. But this mental energy can go into the shadow where it's like, it can go into the paranoid aspect of things. Absolutely. You're trying to prepare yourself for all sorts of outcomes. You're trying to prepare yourself for any case scenario, and that wastes a lot of mental energy. So you want to come out of that so you can go into the divine version of having Scorpio in that third house, which is literally channeling, seeing everything maybe from a metaphysical perspective, maybe kind of connecting the dots, connecting ideas. When you have Scorpio in the third house, you guys are always going to have an interest for occult types of topics. You guys are going to want to talk about these things because it is also the thinking / talking house, the written or the spoken word. So you guys might find yourself speaking about these things, bringing certain things to the surface. You guys could be interested in true crime, bringing certain things to the surface about this. You guys could be interested about anything that is hidden in society. You guys should really think about it, dwell on it, maybe come to your own conclusions, that claircognizance type of nature, and then maybe speak about it, maybe write about it. When you guys have Scorpio in the third house, you guys are transmuting energy through your mind, but mainly through speaking. So speaking and putting things out there. You guys don't want to get stuck in the mind. So if you're not speaking, at least writing to get it out of your system. So this is the whole thing with Scorpio in the third house. It's hidden things, it's hidden topics, maybe hidden experiences, bringing them to the surface, speaking about them so you yourself can transmute the energy, and then in turn you're helping other people transmute that particular energy within themselves as well. You guys are going to be very passionate about all Scorpio types of things, so sex, death, rebirth, joint finances, taxes, and the occult. So it could be something like you guys went through a huge transformation. Now you want to speak about it. Maybe you want to teach it. Maybe you want to help other people, again, through the voice. Maybe writing about it. Maybe social media also. The third house can be social media as well. The third house can also be your siblings. So maybe your siblings are very Scorpionic. Maybe there's something hidden about them. Maybe they're secretive, because Scorpio can go into the shadow as well. So this energy could very much go into the shadow of Scorpio, where it's like you guys are so ahead in terms of the way you guys are playing chess in your mind that you guys can kind of plot things. That's kind of like the shadow version of Scorpio. They can plot things. They can kind of try to get back at people, like that vengeful part of Scorpio, to the point where other people might not even know or even be able to call you out, because it's so sneaky, it's so covert, it's so hidden, this type of energy. Now, what I will say is this particular energy can also spend a lot of time in the crown. So let's say you guys have a crush on someone, this energy can go more so into, like, again, calculating, maybe investigating more about this person, checking their social media, having these kind of like imaginary conversations taking place in their mind versus in real life. So you guys are really gonna have to figure out how to balance the energy within it, so you guys can take advantage of this energy to kind of prep you for things. You guys can really see patterns, and this is kind of what being intuitive and psychic is all about. It's all about pattern recognition. So you guys can kind of see patterns and see how things are going to play out. So maybe it's a job, kind of see how the job's going to play out, or you guys kind of see how can I make my way to maybe a leadership position or whatever it is. Obviously it depends on the rest of the energies in your natal chart. If you guys want to go even more, you guys can definitely get in tune with your psychic gifts and abilities, the mediumship, really using the crown in this particular way. So it's up to you guys which way you guys want to take this energy, but this is the overall idea when you do have Scorpio in the third house. Scorpio in the fourth house, very, very interesting energy here, because this now is going to give you the undertone of having a Scorpio moon. So definitely check out my Scorpio moon video. I will put that in the description box below if you guys want even more information on having this particular energy. It doesn't mean you now are a Scorpio moon. It gives you the undertone energy added on top of the moon sign that you guys already have. Let's say you guys have an air moon, while having Scorpio in the 4th house is going to be a completely different story versus having an air sign in the 4th house. It gives you this undertone of having a Scorpio moon, a scorpionic nature. This means your IC is now in Scorpio when you do have Scorpio occupying the 4th house. So what does this mean? So many things. You guys yourselves could be very, very intuitive. You guys could be very sensitive. You guys could be very creative. You guys could be very emotional. You guys could be very psychic and intuitive, and maybe even mediums when you have this particular energy. When you guys were growing up, having that Scorpio in the 4th house, there's something that wasn't clear about the home. Usually the 4th house is the home, but it could also be the mother. So maybe there's something here that wasn't clear with the mother. Usually with Scorpionic energy anywhere in a natal chart, because it is more so feminine energy, you're always dealing with the undercurrents of feminine energy. So for you guys having it in the 4th house, maybe there was covert feminine manipulation or emotional manipulation when you guys were growing up. Maybe there was emotional neglect that took place. Maybe there were certain things that were hidden about the home that you guys didn't see maybe until later on in life. And then when you guys grew up, it maybe changed your perception of the home, maybe change your perception of the upbringing, the mother or the dominant feminine role in your life. Maybe there's things that she hid from you. This is the thing with like that Scorpio 4th house and why this particular energy eventually becomes psychic. It's because when you're growing up, whatever's happening in your external world isn't necessarily matching your internal world. It's not matching your intuition. So this is how when Scorpio gets the label of being paranoid or kind of thinking that people are out to get them, it's for this reason. It's because, again, there's something that took place that you had to kind of be on edge the entire time when you were growing up. So you were kind of out of body, first of all, in a way. But second of all, it kind of adds this layer of hypersensitivity, hypervigilance, because there's something there where you kind of felt tricked or betrayed in a way. And it's usually dealing with your emotional world because it is the 4th house. Now, obviously, this is also the energy that you're meant to transmute in this particular lifetime when you do have Scorpio in the 4th house. So you yourself are meant to transmute your emotional world, the home, the upbringing, anything that's happening in the feminine line. So regardless of who that caregiver was, it's in the feminine line. So even if the caregiver was the father, for example, you would check to see what's going on with his feminine energy, and in his feminine line overall, you're transmuting this energy and it's on that emotional level. That's really what Scorpio 4th house is all about. Now, what's interesting with this energy is the Scorpio 4th house is going to be opposing your Taurus midheaven. Sometimes people who have this particular axis are going to be Leo risings. You're going to have Leo in that 1st house. Not everybody. It depends whether or not you have that interception taking place in your natal chart. But regardless, having that Taurus 10th house, well, the Scorpio 4th house is fueling the Scorpio 10th house. So what I always say to people, if your career isn't taking off in the way that you wanted to, that 10th house, or maybe you're not getting the gains in your particular situation, for you guys, it's going to be actually building wealth, okay? When you have Taurus in that 10th house, it's going to be the overall vibe of the career, climbing to higher heights, building that quote unquote legacy, okay? You will hear this a lot of the time with Taurus types of people. So having Taurus in that 10th house was fueling this as a Scorpio 4th house. So if something isn't panning out in your career and it's not going the way that you want it to go, there's something that's energetically pulling you in your Scorpio 4th house. This is something that has to be resolved, something that has to be transmuted. Maybe it's an abandonment wound, maybe it's codependency, maybe it's addiction. It's all these shadowy Scorpio types of things that you guys have to basically transmute and integrate within yourselves and bring to the surface is really what that is. Pull it out and bring it to the surface and then have awareness. So because it does deal with the home, the 4th house, there could be a lot of these shadowy things that maybe did take place within the home. Maybe there was addiction within the home, maybe codependency. Addiction is obviously on a range. Addiction can literally go from like scrolling on your phone all day to actual substances, and maybe even codependency in relationships. So if it is, let's say, codependency in relationships, this could be pulling you. Maybe it's a situation, a dynamic with another person is pulling you more into that Scorpio 4th house and not into that 10th house that you're trying to get to. So also keep in mind the charts, the natal chart is a progression. So you can't really get to that 10th house, which is the top of the chart, which are those gains in your case, because it is going to be Taurus. So you can't get to that without having gone through the previous houses. So there could be some sort of internal emotional crisis. Talk about this in terms of the Erickson model. I think I talked about it in the Saturn and the 4th house video. Maybe I'll put that in the description box below as well. But regardless, like that's a term in psychology. I'm not a psychologist by any means, but these are just certain things that I learned along my own journey. So with the Erickson model, they talk about a crisis. And he basically says that certain people can't quote unquote graduate to the next phase of their life if they basically don't heal or transmute whatever that internal crisis is. So for you guys, the internal crisis could be something taking place with the home, something covert, something hidden. Maybe it's a family secret. Maybe it is something in terms of your emotional world. Maybe parents were emotionally unavailable when you guys were growing up. Maybe you guys were psychic and intuitive and you guys didn't know how to deal with this energy, or overall you guys were maybe more emotional and more sensitive. My recommendation in terms of also transmuting energy, obviously everyone has the free will to do whatever they want, but you can take that and channel it into creativity. So going back to what I was saying, usually Leo risings have this, is like Leo risings want to be seen for their creativity. Not all of them, depending on the Placidus tropical system, if you have interceptions or not, but a lot of the time, people who have this access, what's fueling the creativity, that desire to be seen in that Leo creative type of way is going to be the Scorpio 4th house. So that's kind of what's fueling everything. Also, another layer to the story is going to be your own moon sign. That's going to kind of tell you how that moon is basically going to be acting, because you do have the undertone of having a Scorpio moon. So these are a few things that can take place if your 4th house is occupied by the sign of Scorpio. If you have Scorpio in the 5th house, this particular energy is the creative house. This is the area where you guys want to be seen creatively. It's the creative expression. It's going to be your inner child. It's also the house of children, and it could be the area of love, dating, and relationships as well. So having Scorpio in the 5th house, this is really interesting energetically when we think about it, because Scorpio is hidden and Scorpio wants to be more so behind the scenes. The 5th house wants to actually be seen. So what happens here? Well, it depends on how evolved you guys are overall as individuals. You guys have this burning desire to be seen creatively, but Scorpio is going to want to hide. So with Scorpio in the 5th house, I've seen this energy manifest into ways where it's like the person could maybe want to have a social media, so they're dabbling into like something creative, for example, maybe posting their art, maybe posting their poetry, whatever creative expression they have, maybe it's paintings, but they're hiding. So they're hiding. Maybe they're not showing their face, or they're dabbling into it a little bit, but keep in mind, you still want to be seen. The energy here wants to be seen. So you yourself are going to have to break through this, okay? Break through maybe being hidden. A lot of the time with people who are hiding, what I've noticed, I don't know if this is facts or not, but what I've noticed, it could be one of two things. Either there's an emotion of shame connected to it, or maybe fearing not being accepted, or maybe avoidance as well. So these could be reasons that maybe you guys are hiding your creative aspects. So you guys kind of want to work through this and transmute this energy within, because also wherever we have Scorpio in our natal charts, it's going to be the area that you guys are transmuting as well. So you guys might have to work through certain shadow traits to actually activate that house. This could also maybe be in the area of dating as well. Maybe you guys do kind of like shady things behind the scenes, where it's like, I don't know, maybe you guys date multiple people and you don't tell the person, or maybe you guys aren't being fully honest and truthful, whatever it is, okay? Scorpio shadow can manifest many, many ways, but at the same time, maybe you guys have the desire to be, let's say, dating or have like a loving type of relationship or whatever it is. So you guys might have to transmute through these lower versions of Scorpio to actually activate the divine version of that particular house. Now, with that being said, wherever you guys have Scorpio, it could be things that you guys are also bringing to the surface. So for example, this house is going to be very good at like taking maybe something that has happened to them, some sort of event, traumatic event, something dark maybe that took place, and transmuting it maybe through art, artistic expression. Obviously it depends on the rest of your natal chart to see how the art is going to be expressed, but this could be a way that you guys are transmuting. Or sometimes maybe like the dark types of art are going to be more so Scorpio in the 5th house. I mean, that's a little bit more hidden even. Or maybe you guys are going to find a way to talk about certain topics that are maybe occult and hidden and behind the scenes and taboo in an artistic type of way. If we look at Banksy, for example, he always gave me Scorpio in the 5th house energy. Although personally, I think that is a group of people. That's just my own theory. You guys heard it here first. But regardless, the vibe and the idea of Banksy is very Scorpio in the 5th house. It's hidden. It doesn't mean you fully have to be showing yourself if you don't want to. Absolutely. Everyone has the free will to do what they want. Depends on the whole natal chart as well. But at the end of the day, the 5th house is that Leo house, right? So it wants to be seen. Now, with that being said, this energy can also go through a lot of transformation when it comes to their creative work overall, or what you guys do for work in general, or how you guys express yourselves creatively, because the 5th house in a way is also the house of expression. When we look at creativity and people who want to act and people who want to be seen, really what these people are doing is they are expressing. They're expressing something. So for you guys, you really want to express. So what your version of expression is going to be, it could change, okay? As you guys grow and change, and you guys kind of go through this death rebirth process, it could also change the type of art that you guys do. Maybe you guys switch it up. Maybe you guys write for a while. Maybe you guys paint. Maybe you guys do pottery, like whatever it is. Honestly, the world is your oyster. But overall, this particular house is the area that's going to change for you guys, and you yourselves are also changing and transforming through until eventually kind of come to that neutralized energy, which is kind of when that pendulum eventually stops swinging. Now, what I also will say for Scorpio in the 5th house, I do have a video also on what kind of children would you have based on your 5th house. So for you guys, you have Scorpio in the 5th house. So your children, if you guys choose to have them, are going to be very Scorpio-like, going to be very Scorpionic. So they themselves could be maybe into the occult, or very metaphysical, or very psychic, or very intuitive, or mediums. Also though, these children could definitely be like an ego check for you guys, okay? Because Scorpio does deal with the ego, so maybe these children are going to reflect your shadows back to you. When you do have Scorpio in the 5th house, it could kind of put you in your place sometimes, but this is the overall idea. So these are a few things that can take place if you have Scorpio in the 5th house. If you have Scorpio in the 6th house, this particular house is the house of health, healing, and being of service. It's also the house of daily routine, your acquaintances, it could be your co-workers, and it could even be your work. So for people who have Scorpio in the 6th house, these people could be very powerful healers. That's definitely something that can take place for this particular energy. You guys could definitely be very interested in the healing world. Maybe you guys yourselves go through some sort of change or transformation when it comes to your own health, and then you guys are very passionate about this and you guys want to share it with the world and help other people and heal other people in this particular way. You guys can go through a lot of transformations in this particular area overall. So you guys can maybe change your jobs a lot overall. Maybe you guys are going to go through like a lot of routine changes overall, because I do find with Scorpionic energy, it goes through death, rebirth, until it eventually neutralizes. It eventually does come to a neutral point, but while we're kind of going in and out of the energies, it goes through that intense pendulum, because in a way it is healing and transforming that particular area. So for you guys, it is the area of daily routines, health, healing, and being of service. So you guys might go through, let's say, like a huge like weight loss journey, and maybe now you guys are interested in becoming like a personal trainer where you guys help others change. Or maybe you guys are the types of people who like really are about transforming like people's places. You know, the people who are like hoarders. Maybe you guys come in and you kind of help them organize everything. This could be something that you guys do as well, where it's like you guys are transmuting the energy. Keep in mind the underlying intention with this particular house is health, healing, and being of service. So you guys are going to want to help people and be of service in one way, shape, or form, where you guys are helping people transform through this particular house. Now, Scorpio overall is the hidden energy. It can be manipulative, it can be possessive, it can go into the dark aspects of Scorpio. So when you have Scorpio in the 6th house, maybe when it comes to your work, you could be maybe a little bit shady in this particular area, or it could be your colleague. So it could be you, or it could be the energy around you. So something to keep in mind. Having Scorpio in the 6th house, maybe like they're the types of people in the workplace who like really want to hold on to their position, and like they don't want anyone to like take their position. They're like really worried that someone's going to take their position. I don't know if that makes sense, but that type of vibe, like you guys could be like this as well, or you could be exposed to people like this, where it's like you're really holding on to your position. You don't want to change your position or leave it, or like it's like that scarcity vibe where it's like you're worried that someone's going to like take your role. It could be this. Also, with this particular energy, you could go through changes and transformations yourselves through your work, through your colleagues, and through the overall daily acquaintances. So just like people that you kind of know in terms of like the day-to-day, maybe go through some sort of transformational experience by knowing this person or these individuals. Sometimes the 6th house can be very particular about what they eat and their diets. So, you know, being very particular maybe about what you guys eat, because this is helping you guys transform. And then maybe you guys create some sort of meal plan for other people, kind of like a personal trainer also in a way, or maybe even dietitian. It could manifest into that energy as well. Keep in mind, again, the undertone of the energy here is to help people. Is to help people. The 6th house could be investigative as well. So having Scorpio in the 6th, like you guys could be really good at investigating things, like finding things online, finding things about people. You know, those like internet individuals, like when there's like a story that comes out and there's missing parts to the story. Well, Scorpio in the 6th house people could be the types of people who just like because they're interested or they're curious, they're gonna really dig deep and find all this information like basically for free. So that's the type of vibe. You guys are gonna be super investigative, especially when it comes to even like your research, like really researching everything, like really wanting to get to the bottom of things. This energy could also be very good at astrology as well, or just any sort of esoteric topics where you guys are really researching, spending a lot of time, because it's like Scorpio as an energy can become very obsessed, especially when it's interested in something. Like it's gonna want to get to the bottom of it. Like it could spend literally the whole day trying to get some sort of answer that it's looking for and it's seeking. So these are a few ways that the Scorpio in the 6th house energy could manifest. Scorpio in the 7th house. So this is if you have Scorpio as your descendant. This is also going to give you the undertone energy of having a Scorpio Venus. Doesn't mean your Venus sign is now changing, but it does add a little bit of a different layer to the story as to what your actual Venus is. So whatever your Venus is, this adds an undertone energy to that particular Venus. So let's say you guys have a Gemini Venus, where it's like when it comes to your relationships, you guys might be overall fun and lighthearted, and you guys might want to date a lot of people or have a lot of friends, because Venus / the 7th house is also the area of relationships, partnerships, romantic relationships, business partnerships. You guys have a Scorpio descendant, so Scorpio is occupying your 7th house. Well, this is going to add a little bit of a different layer to the story when it comes to your relationships and your partnerships and all interpersonal relationships, whether it's romantic or your friends or your business partnerships. Well, in this particular case, there's going to be a Scorpionic undertone to it. So a few things here. You guys might be possessive when it comes to your relationships, or you guys might attract possessive people into your life. You guys might be obsessive when it comes to your relationships, or where you guys could attract these people into your life. Overall though, Scorpio, when it's in its divine version, it's very loyal. It's going to be deep relationships. It's going to be intimate relationships where you really get to know the person. But at the same time, the Scorpio 7th house person could unconsciously, without realizing, be in these types of dynamics where it's like the dynamic doesn't feel like it's intense and it doesn't feel like you guys are going through something intense together. It almost feels like it's not even happening. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you might get used to the energy at the same time, where it's like relationships don't necessarily have to be that intense. They don't have to be these types of maybe like dark experiences you guys go through together. But in the earlier stages of having Scorpio in the 7th house, there could be a lot of maybe traumatic events that do take place through your relationships or with the person that maybe you guys are dating or your friends. Also, you guys could attract people into your life that are into the occult, into astrology. Maybe they're psychologists also, maybe they are therapists, maybe they're in the financial world. Like you could kind of be attracted to these types of people. Anyone who's transforming something, you guys could be around these people. You could go through transformational experiences with these individuals as well. So whether you guys go through it together or the person brings a transformational experience to you. Now, what I will say for Scorpionic energy, I have been saying this for the other houses as well. It's like you go through death, rebirth, like the intensity of Scorpio until you neutralize. Okay, so the energy does eventually neutralize. It's just kind of like you go through the intensity of Scorpio because that's just the nature of the energy while you're transmuting the energy within, and then you're kind of like, okay, I get it now. So another thing for you guys, your ascendant is going to be in Taurus. This can be really, really interesting because to the world, you guys portray yourselves as very dependable, as very loyal, as climbing and building something, okay? Money is going to be on your mind. So what I've noticed also with this particular axis, the ascendant in Taurus and descendant in Scorpio, sometimes these people can attract like a trusty sidekick into their life. So either you're going to attract someone into your life that you guys are building together towards something, or it's going to be a person that's like a trusty sidekick type of vibe. So it's like while you're building, they're kind of there. The dynamic could be codependent, so keep this in mind. Scorpio descendant overall could be codependent. You guys could be codependent. You could attract codependent people into your life, and this could be something that you guys might have to transmute. You guys could attract also dark people in general into your life, so people who have been through a lot of intense experiences. Could be obsessive people as well. And also, so if you guys are on the particular axis of having Taurus ascendant, Scorpio descendant, your 4th house would be in Leo, and then your 10th house would actually be in Aquarius. So in this particular situation, if you're on this axis, not everyone's going to have this. If you guys do have interceptions in your natal chart, so keep that in mind. But if you're on this particular axis, well then your moon undertone energy, which is the 4th house, could be Leo. There could be this unconscious desire as well to be seen creatively, to be recognized, to be on some form of stage, to maybe be a manager or a leader. And then with the Aquarius 10th house, well, in this particular situation, what could take place is you guys could find yourselves in particular roles that are helping connect the collective and propel them forward. So this could be tech, this could be innovation, this could be engineering, maybe the fashion world, the fashion industry, depending on the rest of your natal chart. Like I mentioned, if you do have an interception, it's not going to necessarily apply to you, but for people who are on this particular axis, that's kind of what's taking place. Okay, so through all of that, having that Scorpio descendant, you're going to constantly be looking for that quote unquote trusty sidekick, either someone to build with, someone that's loyal and dependable, and it's always going to be intense relationships overall. It's going to be intimate relationships, and depending on the rest of your natal chart, depending what's going on with your Venus, and depending on what's going on with the rest of your natal chart, you guys really are going to be seeking some sort of partnership or a unit with another person that is going to be by your side, either that you guys are building with or helping you build. If you guys want to learn more about the Scorpio descendant energy, which is Scorpio in the 7th house, I do have a Scorpio descendant video. I'm pretty sure it's in the descendant playlist, and also check out the Scorpio Venus. It doesn't mean you guys have a Scorpio Venus now, but you guys will take on a lot of these traits. So these are a few things that can take place if you have Scorpio occupying your 7th house. Scorpio in the 8th house, if you have this energy, it's definitely intense. I mean, Scorpio anywhere overall is going to be intense, but especially in the 8th house. So when you have Scorpio in the 8th house, Scorpio is in its home. So it's even double of the Scorpionic energy. You guys go through a lot of death, rebirth, a lot of change, a lot of transformation, a lot of intense experiences, maybe early on in life. Maybe you guys are exposed to death early on in life, just traumatic experiences overall. If it's not actually death, it could just be the death of the old, more so like a metaphor type of vibe, where you guys go through a lot of these changes. You guys go through a lot of death, rebirth, and then in turn, you guys also yourselves go through a lot of death, rebirth. Now, what's really, really interesting about this energy, a lot of the time, obviously if you have interceptions, it might not necessarily apply, but a lot of the time it's going to be an Aries rising who has Scorpio in the 8th house, because for you guys, all of the signs are going to be in the particular house that they do belong to. So it's interesting because Aries rising people overall are here to start something new, start some sort of new cycle for themselves and for the family line. And usually what's pushing this and what's fueling this are going to be these intense experiences that they have gone through. Now, with Scorpio in the 8th house, You guys are definitely not going to shy away from the occult, magic, astrology, esoterica, like all these types of things to maybe help you get to your end goal. Because keep in mind, if you do have Aries in that first house, it's all about being a leader. It's all about that perseverance energy, that fighter within. And what could potentially, obviously, it's going to be a lot of different things in a natal chart, but potentially what could be fueling all of this could be that Scorpio 8th house. So you might notice that these people who have Scorpio in the 8th house are going to be interested in all these types of things. You yourselves are going to go through a lot of changes and transformations. Like I mentioned, there could be a lot of change and transformation that takes place in your life that forces you guys into change, but it almost in a way gives you guys this fuel, because Scorpio did used to be ruled by Mars. It's ruled by Pluto now, but it used to be ruled by Mars. So it's like this warrior spirit within where it's like, oh no, you're not going to get the best of me. I'm still going to get to my goal and I'm still going to get you where I'm trying to go. So with all that being said, having Scorpio in the 8th house, all of the intensity of Scorpio, the shadows of Scorpio, you guys might have to transmute within to get to these end goals, to get to wherever it is that you guys are trying to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these people are interested in things like energy work and energy healing, because they could eventually become very aware of this plane and that this plane does operate on energy first, okay, especially occult and these types of things. I'm gonna have to leave it there, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know. So you guys are gonna go through a lot of these changes, and basically in the pursuit of trying to get some sort of goal, you guys come to these discoveries along the way. You guys kind of understand the true nature of this plane. So you guys could find yourselves also in situations and areas where you guys are trying to manipulate energy. Something to keep in mind, that if you guys do go into the world of magic and energy manipulation and these types of things, keep in mind Scorpio and the 8th house is also in a way connected to karma. So what I've noticed is Scorpio tries to cut corners sometimes for you guys, because it is the 8th house, that transformational house. It's the money access overall. You guys can be very interested in trying to manipulate energy when it comes to trying to get money, maybe doing money spells, whatever it is. Even if it is something like fast money, I would definitely say watch out for this, okay, when you do have Scorpio in the 8th house, because it's like the nature of this earth plane does deal with karma at the end of the day. And a lot of the time what happens with Scorpionic energy is in their pursuit of trying to cut corners to get the end result faster, because in the higher planes you can get it faster. Down here we're restricted by Saturn. So because we're restricted by Saturn, it might end up taking more time or just as much time as it would have if you didn't go down that route. So something to keep in mind for Scorpio in the 8th house, because overall you guys are going to be into all of these things in the end, okay? At the end of this Scorpio in the 8th house journey, after you go through this intense death, rebirth, and you transmute and everything, and you guys are finally in that Scorpio rising state, you guys are manifesting left, right, and center. I wouldn't even be surprised if this energy is into like sex magic and like these types of things as well. Anything to do with energy manipulation to kind of get their goal. And maybe in the end of it all, because Scorpio does bring hidden things to the surface, maybe you guys are going to talk about these things. Maybe you guys are going to share your experiences. Maybe you guys are going to come out and be like, okay, I tried to do this and then I realized that it didn't work, or, you know, these people are doing this, or these other people are doing this, like whatever it is. Scorpio brings certain things to the surface. So these are a few things that can take place when you guys have Scorpio in the 8th house. If you have Scorpio in the 9th house is a house of philosophies, higher learning, higher wisdom. It could also be foreign lands. It could also be anything to do with like religion, and it could also be anything to do with teaching as well. That Jupiter energy, that 9th house. So having Scorpio in here, a few things can take place actually. First of all, you guys can spend a lot of time thinking about a lot of different philosophies, exploring them, seeing what resonates with you guys. A lot of the time, a Scorpio in the 9th house person could go off on some sort of expedition to try to discover what their own philosophies are. And usually what happens with this energy is they come back and they actually might create their own philosophy, where it's like they take this information out of this particular philosophy, that out of that one, and they kind of create like their own version. That's Scorpio in the 9th house. And keep in mind, Scorpio in the 9th house, Scorpio can be passionate. They can also be cutthroat. And then we have the 9th house, which can go into preachy energy as well. So when you have Scorpio in the 9th house, you guys can become very preachy with anything that is 9th house like, okay? So anything to do with philosophies, religion, the higher mind, all these higher teachings, you guys can become very passionate about it, but like a little bit too much, if that makes sense, to the point where it's like you guys might just be preaching it and like screaming it at people, you know what I mean? So again, reeling it back in and figuring out a strategic way to maybe teach people these types of things, because you guys are going to be very passionate teachers. People are going to be very magnetized towards you guys in this particular area. You guys are probably going to have this type of vibe where it's like people think that you guys know a lot of things, because you guys do, because Scorpio does exude that energy. And it's like a lot of the time, Scorpio doesn't share things unless it fully resonates with them, and it resonates with them on that intuitive type of level. That's why this energy does have this confidence undertone to them, and sometimes ego as well, to the point where it's like when you guys do have your belief system set, and you guys have gone on this journey to like discover whatever your belief systems are, it's going to be hard to change from those and budge from those. And it's going to be very difficult for someone to change your mind. So this energy, because Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars, currently ruled by Pluto, you guys can really argue and fight for your belief systems. Like you guys can really feel that passionate about them. But in the earlier stages, before you guys do get to maybe this intense like confidence in whatever you guys do believe in, you guys might go through the trials and tribulations, because Scorpio does go through death, rebirth, and it does deal with hidden things as well. So you guys might hide your belief systems for a period of time or feel like you're hidden or like you can't express them. Those could be maybe the earlier stages or just like the lower versions, right? It's like you have these belief systems, maybe it's different from people around you, maybe it's different from your family, from your friends, whoever it is. But eventually when you guys do break through that lower version of Scorpio, you transmute this. Scorpio is taking hidden and bringing it to the surface. So you guys are going to be very passionate in this particular area. What I also will say for Scorpio is because it is a very psychic, intuitive energy, it does deal with the feeling and it feels into things. You guys could also come up with your own philosophies by just dwelling on it, thinking about it. Why is it like this? Where did it come from? All these types of things. You absolutely could. And then you come up with your own philosophy in this type of way. I also will add in this particular segment of Scorpio in the 9th house, it does deal with higher education and higher learning as well. So if you guys are interested in pursuing academia, any sort of higher learning with that Scorpio in the 9th house energy, you guys can become obsessed with this, whatever particular topic you guys are researching, because a lot of the time, academia, PhDs, like the higher level learning does require a lot of time and research. So you guys are going to have to be really passionate about whatever it is you guys pick, but you guys could succeed in this particular area as well, because Scorpio, once again, they put themselves into whatever they are doing. They're 110% involved in that thing. But the thing is, what I will say about Scorpio is when they're done and they're over it, they move on to the next thing. Okay, so there is this, but that is going to depend on the rest of your natal chart. Overall, Scorpio is fixed. So if you guys are interested in pursuing academia, something that takes a little bit more time, and you guys are passionate about a certain topic and doing the research about that topic, you guys could also be successful with this particular energy as well. So these are a few things that can take place if you have Scorpio in the 9th house. If you have Scorpio in the 10th house, for you guys, it's all about your career and your public image. So the 10th house is going to be your midheaven. You're going to have Scorpio occupying your midheaven. Now, what I find very interesting with Scorpio midheaven people is I have seen a lot of people who are in the public eye have a Scorpio midheaven. So my conclusion, at least for this, is with Scorpio midheaven, okay? So the midheaven is going to tell you your vibe of your career. It's more so the vibe of the career to see like what the overall career you guys do or where you guys might benefit from putting your energy into to make money. You're going to look at the whole natal chart. So 10th house is the vibe of the career, what your public image could be and what could be the undertone energies of what your career is. Now, what I've noticed with people who have Scorpio in the 10th house, a lot of the time for them, it doesn't even matter what they do as long as they get to power and control. So in the current society that we're living in, money is a form of power and control. So you will see people who have Scorpio in the 10th house, they are climbing sneakily though. It's going to be happening behind the scenes. They are climbing to these higher positions, the higher heights. They're really trying to get some form of power and control, and they're going to be strategic about it. With that being said, I do have a Scorpio midheaven video. If you guys want to learn more, I will add it in the description box below, because whatever I say in this video is just scratching the surface. There's just so much more to say about this particular energy. But this is the overall vibe with the Scorpio midheaven, Scorpio 10th house. This is your career. So you can go into Scorpio types of careers. Absolutely. It could be something artistic as well. It could be something creative. It could be anything to do with like the occult, astrology. It could be anything to do with money also. So like financial advising is usually other people's money. So it could be like investments, financial advising. It could be therapy. It could be being like a psychologist or a therapist or a sex therapist. It could be any of these careers, but overall, the main thing that I've noticed with Scorpio, especially in the 10th house when it comes to career and public image, it doesn't really matter what they do. I find it more so like an additional type of energy, almost like an amplifier. So it's like whatever you guys want to do, Scorpio is amplifying that because Scorpio fully puts themselves into things. So for you guys, it's going to be the area of career. You guys are going to fully immerse yourself into this. Now, with that being said, you have your 10th house in Scorpio, your 4th house is in Taurus. This adds a whole different layer to the story because the 4th house adds an emotional undertone to your moon. It gives you the undertone energy of having this particular moon sign. Doesn't mean your moon sign is now this. It's the undertone energy added to the moon that you guys already have. So for you guys are going to have the undertones of having a Taurus moon. Okay, so hardworking, wanting to build something, getting to those higher heights, and that's what's emotionally fulfilling for you guys. So that is what's fueling your Scorpio 10th house. Now, what I always say to people with this particular access, I do have a video on the importance of the 4th house. If your career or your public image or whatever you guys want to do for work isn't going in the direction that you guys want it to go in, well, in that case, you have to look at the 4th house and see what took place in the home. Are there belief systems around money in particular, okay, that are holding you back from your career? Or was there a scarcity mindset? Or was there some form of negative beliefs or relationships with money? Because that could be holding you back from your career. You can't get to the 10th house without having gone through the previous houses. So you really want to see what's going on with the 4 houses it's opposing. It's the oppositional energy. Sometimes people who have this particular axis are going to be in Aquarius rising. Not always. If you have it intercepted, it might not necessarily be Aquarius rising, but sometimes you guys are going to have an Aquarius rising. You're going to be on that axis, Aquarius rising, Leo descendant, Taurus 4th house, and then your Scorpio midheaven. So having that Aquarius rising energy is this uniqueness and wanting to be seen for your mind and for being different and for being ahead of the grain and for being yourselves ultimately is the whole thing here. So the more you guys activate this energy within and then kind of go through all the houses, also having the Leo descendant, okay, so these are your relationships and your dynamics and the people you guys attract into your life as well, and sometimes your shadow traits as well. I didn't actually mention that for the 7th house in Scorpio, but also the 7th house overall might tell you guys some shadow traits that you guys might have to integrate to activate that first house to fully shine. So for you guys, maybe you guys could struggle with rejection, for example, or you guys could struggle with ego, or you guys could struggle with pride, or not wanting to start because it's like maybe you guys want to be at the top right away. So once you guys integrate all of these things, then you're going to activate that Scorpio 10th house, the career, the money, because in a way the 10th house, at least in the Placidus tropical system, is going to be the top of your natal chart. Okay, so you're climbing to the 10th house, and to get to that 10th house, you want to go through the previous houses. So definitely important to keep this in mind. One more thing that I do want to mention before I wrap up Scorpio 10th house is you guys are going to probably change your careers a lot until you come to that stabilized energy, because it's the death, rebirth until you get to the stabilized energy. Definitely shadows to integrate that are scorpionic. So maybe being manipulative in your career or manipulative when it comes to trying to get to these higher heights. So you might have to integrate that as well to activate the 10th house. And another thing also is you could publicly change and publicly transform. So Scorpio in the 10th house could kind of build something up. And because Scorpio does deal with an ego a little bit in that way, where it's like, I built this thing up, but I don't want you guys to think of me that way. No, I'm going to destruct it now and then build this other thing up. So you will see these people go through death, rebirth a lot, again, until they kind of neutralize in the middle somewhere. And also when it comes to social media and how you guys present yourselves on social media, you guys might be hidden in the beginning because there is a lot of absorbing of energy. So my recommendation for this particular energy is to niche into something. Obviously, you guys have the free will to do whatever you guys want. But if you guys are posting things on social media and you guys are presenting publicly in this way, you want to niche down into whatever the area is that you guys want to do. If it's knitting, do knitting. If it is tarot card readings, do that. If it's everything that you're trying to do is going to drain you guys, okay, because you guys are absorbing through the public as well. And also you guys are transmuting for the public as well. So it's a lot of things for Scorpio in the 10th house. Check out my Scorpio Midheaven video. I'm sure I went over some of these things in that particular video as well. But in a nutshell, overall, this is the overall vibe if you guys do have Scorpio in the 10th house. If you have Scorpio in the 11th house, this house is the humanitarian house, philanthropy house. This is the house of friendships, the internet, helping others, and connecting the collective and helping the collective be propelled forward. So when you guys have Scorpio in the 11th house, in this particular area, you guys could definitely be interested in creating something that is going to help propel the collective forward. Okay, you guys are going to be very futuristic. It's almost like double of this crown chakra energy, because the 11th house is very crown chakra energy overall, in the sense where it's like very futuristic, ahead of the time, a lot of ideas, ahead of the game. Now we have Scorpio in here. You guys are changing and transmuting this house. So you're transmuting through this, but now you're also helping the collective transmute through this energy as well. So you might be interested in even being online, sharing your scorpionic ideas online, connecting with people in this particular way, maybe creating some sort of transformational idea when it comes to tech, innovation, when it comes to anything that's futuristic, maybe helping the collective in one way, shape, or form. Maybe you guys create some sort of invention or innovation or app, whatever it is, that kind of connects the collective in a way, makes things easier for them, brings something to the surface. It could even be something like an astrology app, for example, or using the internet to share your ideas about the occult or things that are hidden, or even psychology and therapy, or things that are taboo in society overall. You guys could share in this way to help connect people. So these are a few things that can take place for this energy. What I will say also for the 11th house, so one of the things is these are the types of friends and groups of people and how you guys might also be as a friend. So I do have a video on that as well. I will add that in the description box below. So when you have Scorpio in the 11th house, you guys might attract people into your life or friends that are very scorpionic. So it could be deep friendships that are very intimate. You guys talk about all sorts of things. So you guys could attract the shadow of Scorpio as well. So it could be people who are secretive or manipulative or have hidden agendas and hidden purposes. It could be this, but it could absolutely go into the divine version of Scorpio as well. Now, what I will say also for the 11th house is always going to tell us what kind of following we might have if you guys want to be portraying something into the world or creating some sort of social media page or whatever it is. If it's not on social media, if it's in real life, whatever it is that you guys are doing, the 11th house is going to tell us the types of people that we might want to work with or the people that are attracted to our energy. So for you guys, you have Scorpio in the 11th house. This is a really interesting energy because your following, for example, could be people who are scorpionic overall, people who are interested in things like true crime, things that are hidden, the occult, all these previous things that I mentioned that are Scorpio-esque. If you guys are interested in having like a tarot channel, or if you guys are interested in talking about psychology, therapy, all these types of things. So the types of people you guys are engaging with are going to be interested in all Scorpio types of topics. So there's that. So let's say you guys are starting something and you guys maybe are looking for inspiration. Well, knowing this, so these are the types of people that are going to be attracted to whatever it is you guys are sharing with them. Now, another thing too, what's interesting with this energy is like whatever following you guys have could really feel passionately also about whatever you guys are teaching them or sharing with them or whatever it is, to the point where it's like in the comment section, like they might argue about what you're saying with each other. Okay, so it could go into this energy as well. The following overall is going to be very loyal, but you also could have maybe people who are like obsessive, a little too obsessive, if you guys catch my drift. Maybe if you guys are going to be a public person or like an online person, like being very weary about what you guys actually do post online, because you guys could have these types of like obsessive types of people who are interested in you as well. I'm actually psychically seeing that fan that was obsessed with John Lennon. Anyways, I'm not trying to speak anything into existence for people, so feel free to say I don't claim that energy, but it could go to that point of obsession. So keep this in mind. You obviously want to take it to your advantage, but then keep in mind that, you know, there's all sorts of people that are like looming behind the scenes, maybe keeping certain things or aspects of yourself private. So these are a few things that can take place if you have Scorpio in the 11th house. If you have Scorpio in the 12th house, very, very interesting energy, because unconsciously you guys are going to behave like a Scorpio. Now, obviously depends on the rest of your natal chart, whether it is intercepted or not. If you have Scorpio in the 12th house, maybe you're a Scorpio rising, or maybe you have Sagittarius rising. So maybe you present to the world like a Sagittarius person, but unconsciously you could behave like a Scorpio. And it's interesting because just from my own findings, observations, I don't know if this is facts, just what I've observed, usually we tend to pick up more so on the person's 12th house rather than their first house. I know people say that first house is that first impression that we give off, but I feel like, especially if it's unconscious and you're unaware of your 12th house and what's taking place in your 12th house, you could actually exude more of the 12th house energy versus the first house energy. So what do I mean by this? When you guys have Scorpio in the 12th house unconscious, you guys behave like a Scorpio. You guys might be intense. You guys might be very blunt. You guys might be very like magnetic to people, attractive. People might not even know why they're attracted to you and your energy. They might just want to be around you. Now also the 12th house is the healing house. So you guys might have a lot of healing energy. This could be another reason why people are attracted to you guys. Now also having Scorpio in the 12th house, unconsciously you guys are seeking for the depths in life. You're seeking for these deep experiences, deep people, deep situations. You guys want the depths in life. So 12th house Scorpio, it's interesting because it depends on the rest of your natal chart to see what's going on. But even if you have a lot of that fun air energy going on in there, even if you are a Sagittarius rising, behind the scenes, your 12th house is in Scorpio. So unconsciously you behave like a Scorpio. Unconsciously you want to learn about all these things that are esoteric, things that are hidden. You want to talk about these things. You want to bring them to the surface in one way, shape, or form. And even more so because it's in your 12th house, because it's even more hidden. Scorpio is hidden and the 12th house is hidden. So because it's hidden, unconsciously, you guys can have these traits. And what happens with our unconscious, at least what I've observed up until this point, is like when we're not aware of our unconscious, it tends to be in the driver's seat versus us being aware of that. Do you know what I mean? So unconsciously, you guys can have shadow Scorpio traits. Usually it's shadow. When it's unconscious, it tends to go into the shadow from what I've observed. So unconsciously, you guys could be possessive. Maybe you guys could struggle with codependency. Maybe you guys yourselves could be super, super obsessive. So these are all things that you guys might have to transmute within yourself, because it's also happening in your subconscious overall. It's in the 12th house, it's hidden. So you guys might have to work a little harder to bring these things to the surface, to kind of reel it back in so you guys can be in the driver's seat. You don't want your unconscious to be in the driver's seat, especially if it's in the shadow aspect of the unconscious. Now, the thing is, Scorpio goes through a lot of death, rebirth throughout their life, and eventually they neutralize. That's kind of how the energy works. So eventually you get into that Phoenix rising state. A lot of different people are going to talk about all the different animals. Doesn't really matter. Eventually the end goal is to get to this Phoenix rising state. Okay, you see things from this higher perspective. You're an alchemist, you're a magician, you're magnetizing things towards you, you're manifesting things left, right, and center. But we can only get to that state after we've gone through the shadows, after we've gone through the darkness, after we've transmuted a lot of these types of things. Okay, so Scorpio in the 12th house, there could be a lot of grudges maybe that you guys have, that you guys are holding on to, that maybe you guys need to release. Maybe you guys can go into shadow Scorpio, where you guys go into the paranoid parts of Scorpio. So the thing is, the 12th house is a psychic house also on top of everything. Okay, it's the unconscious, but it's also the psychic and the metaphysical realms. A lot of people don't understand the 12th house, mostly probably because they're not 12th house people. But the 12th house is a psychic realm. So for you guys, these could be ways that you guys also get your psychic information. So it could be by being obsessed about something. Why did they say it like that? Why did they look at that person when they said it? Why didn't they say that? You guys notice like the micro things, like the micro like expressions on the face. You guys are gonna register all these types of things. I call it Scorpio repertoire. So you guys have this like scorpionic repertoire. So by like collecting all this information on people, the body language, like the little mannerisms here and there, what people say, what people don't say, this is how you guys might go into your crown. This is how you guys might get your information, by obsessing over certain things or certain topics. Keep in mind, this energy can go into the shadow of obsession as well. With scorpionic energy, I do find that like, because overall you guys are gonna have this obsessive obsessive energy within you or obsessive tendencies, you always want to take that obsessive energy and put it on something positive. So it could be a goal, it could be an outcome, it could be an ambition that you guys have, because in that way it's going towards something positive versus something maybe negative or obsessing over a person or something of the sort, okay? So all these lower vibrational scorpionic things, codependencies, addictions, hidden things, hiding overall, are gonna have to be transmuted so you guys can get into the divine version of Scorpio, which is all the wonderful things that I mentioned, where you guys really are transmuting that energy left, right, and center. If you guys were to spend an extended period of time getting in tune with your psychic gifts and abilities, and the thing is, with psychic gifts and abilities, if you're in the lower chakras or you're in the lower versions of the self or you're in the fear, that's kind of when you go into the paranoid aspect of Scorpio. You want to come out of that, you want to transmute that so you guys can go into the heart space and into the heart resonance, where you guys are able to vibrate out of the higher chakras and you're able to go into the higher spiritual planes. So this energy really has the potential of being a good psychic or even a good medium. Scorpio is also mediumship abilities as well. If you guys were to practice and exercise the energies, the potential is there. But overall, what I would say for Scorpio in the 12th house is the main name of the game here is to transmute any sort of lower scorpionic, darker energies of the unconscious and mastering your subconscious, because once again, you guys want to be in the driver's seat. You don't want your unconscious to be in the driver's seat. So these are a few things that can take place if you do have Scorpio in the 12th house. Now, my dear friends, with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video of Scorpio through the houses here. I do hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you guys did, please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.